Hey guys, welcome back to the Pulling Curls podcast. It's bonus time. We have not had a bonus episode in a while, but I'm a missionary for this cause and it is not church. So today we're talking about kick counts. Let's untangle it. Hi, I'm Hillary Erickson, the curly head behind the Pulling Curls podcast, where we untangle pregnancy, parenting, home, and even travel. We know there's no right answer for every family, but hopefully we can spark some ideas that will work for yours. Life's tangled, just like my hair. Okay, guys, before we get started, jump on over and subscribe because you never know when we're going to throw out a bonus episode and you do not want to miss it. So make sure that you subscribe. There's Stitcher, there's Apple Podcasts, there's Google Podcasts, there's, just find your favorite podcast player and make sure that you've subscribed. Okay, guys, I wanted to release this episode pretty much as soon as we recorded it because I am such a fan of kick counts and I want to make sure that everyone is doing them. And I thought it was kind of fun that it's coming out around Halloween, which means that something that could be scary really doesn't need to be. I know that the biggest part that's scary of pregnancy is the whole what ifs, right? Health, you, the baby, all those kind of different things. But this is really something that you can tangibly do every day that's really going to help promote your baby's well-being. So today's guest is the executive director at Healthy Birthday. I first found out about her from the Count the Kicks public health campaign. I actually had a manager who was talking to me about the studies, which she will quote, so stay tuned, about how many stillbirths just knowing and doing kick counts can really save. They are based in I think it's Iowa, and it's amazing what them pushing kick counts and encouraging providers and moms to do kick counts has really changed the life of so many babies. So I want to introduce today's guest, Emily Price. Do you feel prepared for your delivery? In just 3 short hours, you can be prepared for the confident, collaborative delivery you want. You'll know what to expect and how to talk with your healthcare team, and there are no boring lessons in this class. I'll use humor, stories from my 20 years in the delivery room to engage both of you. I love how Alyssa told me that she found herself laughing at things that used to sound scary. Most of all, you guys are going to be on the same page from bump to bassinet. Join the online prenatal class for couples today. You can save 15% with coupon code UNTANGLED. You can find the link in the show notes. Hey, Emily, welcome to the Pulling Curls podcast.
Hi, Hillary. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I am such a kick count fan, like huge. Kick counts are the Beatles at Shea Stadium for me.
Wow, what a compliment. Thank you so much, Hillary. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was a total kick count evangelist. I told all my patients about it because I think it's some way that moms can really engage in their own care and health at home without having to come to the hospital, which is super annoying. So let's talk about kick counts. All right. So how do you do a kick count? You want to tell us?
I'd love to. Thank you for the opportunity, Hillary. We would love moms in the 3rd trimester to start counting their baby's movements every day, starting at 28 weeks or 26 weeks if you're high risk. Count the kicks every day, preferably at the same time. And what we mean by that is to time how long it takes your baby to get to 10 movements. And you can do this using our free Count the Kicks app. It's available in 12 languages. There are no ads. There are no pop-ups. There's nothing on there to get in your way of having your kick counting session. We're a nonprofit organization proven to prevent stillbirths with this kick counting method. So time how long it takes your baby to get to 10 movements during your daily kick counting session in the 3rd trimester. And after a few days, you're going to start to begin to see an average length of time it gets to 10 movements. So call your provider right away if you notice a change in the strength of your baby's movements or how long it takes your baby to get to 10 movements. And the reason why this is important is because research shows that babies actually develop a pattern, that every baby has and every pregnancy is different. So my baby on average might take 20 minutes to get to 10 movements. And Hillary, your baby might have taken 4 minutes to get to 10 movements. But I need to know what's normal for my baby, and you need to know what's normal for your baby so that we can speak up if normal changes.
Yeah. And I think the benefit is doing it every day. right? Because over time, your baby's movements will change, right?
Yes, absolutely. So getting to know what is their normal, looking back at the history, then you can be in touch with your body and your baby and speak up if something changes that is alarming to you. And really, the app is sort of a data download for your mom's intuition, right? So many times, moms across this country may notice that something is off, that something feels different, but you don't really know how oftentimes to communicate it to your doctor. But the app, or if you're tracking on paper or by a chart, you can show your doctor proof that something has changed. You can say, hey, doc, it used to take our baby 5 minutes to get to 10 movements. And today, all of a sudden, it's taking 3 hours and I only got 3 subtle movements. And if your provider knows that, then they know that they need to investigate and they need to figure out what might be causing that change in movement. And sometimes it's nothing, but sometimes it is something. Sometimes it's an early warning flag, an early red flag, an early warning system that there might be an issue, that something has changed with your baby.
Yeah. And it's really all that you can have because you don't have any other medical devices inside your body. So I love it. It's so cheap. It's so cheap and easy to do. And one of my best pro tips for all the tired moms out there is I always did my kid counts after dinner because I was like, well, then my husband needs to clean up dinner and I can lay on the couch.
That is a pro tip right there. I love it.
Plus, that's a time when the baby moves a lot. So it was really easy to do because I had just fed it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can include siblings, if you have a toddler running around, have them come over and sit and help you count. Or you can use it as an excuse to retreat to the bedroom and put your feet up.
Yes, that was mine. I was like, I really need to sit and just think about the baby right now. So you're going to need to leave me alone. Go to help dad.
Exactly.
It's so awesome. So I have heard lately, though, they're like, the womb doesn't get too tight. The baby's movement should be the same throughout. But I always felt like it was like War of the Worlds at the beginning of kid counts. And then by the end, it was more like subtle shifting, which changed over time. It wasn't, the big thing is if, Tuesday you feel XYZ and then Wednesday it's just completely different. That's when you call your doctor. But I feel like you are going to have subtle changes in how baby's moving in your womb throughout the end of that first trimester. Do you think so?
That's right. Babies don't run out of room at the end of pregnancy. I think that part is a myth. Babies should move up to and even during labor. So you will notice subtle changes. Instead of things like big rolls or things like that, toward the end, you may get something like a punch or a jab. So there will be subtle differences in how your baby moves between a roll or a jab or something like that. But that average amount of time that it takes to get to 10 and the strength of your baby's movements should roughly stay the same. And so if you've noticed a change in any of that, you do need to call your provider. But don't let anyone tell you that babies run out of room or that they move less, because in fact, they don't run out of room, that they can move up to and even during labor.
Okay. Yeah. It's just kind of how they're moving. Is that
Exactly.
a better way to term it? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So, but why do kid counts? Obviously no, but what do the studies show about kid counts and why should moms be doing them daily?
Studies show that it truly is an early warning system, that this is a change in fetal movement, change in your baby's movements in the third trimester are oftentimes the earliest and sometimes only indication that there might be something going wrong with the pregnancy. And so the reason why this is a stillbirth prevention campaign is because there are a variety of things that can cause your baby's movements to change. Babies in the third trimester are a lot like us as adults. If we are not feeling well or not doing well, our movements are going to change. We want to lay on the couch. We want to lay in bed. We're going to move differently. We're going to become weaker. It's the same thing for babies. If they're not doing well, then they're going to become weaker. Their movements are going to change. And so that's what the research shows us. And here are some examples of what might be happening to cause your baby's movements to change. Everything from they've developed a knot in their umbilical cord. They could have what's called a tight nuchal cord, where the cord may be wrapped around their neck multiple times or tightly. And it's not to say a nuchal cord or a knot always leads to stillbirth. My son was born with the cord wrapped around his neck and he was perfectly fine. But in some cases, if there are complications with your baby's umbilical cord, it could end up being a bad thing. And that's why it's important, if it's restricting their movement, if it's changing their movement, then it does become a red flag that you need to talk to your doctor and let your doctor investigate, perform an ultrasound, run a non-stress test and see what's happening. Other things that might change a baby's movements are things like maternal fetal hemorrhage or placental abruption. All of a sudden, your placenta is calcifying. or it may have blood clots in it that are all of a sudden start to restrict nutrients, keep nutrients from getting to baby, including oxygen as well. And so a change in movement is your baby saying, there might be an issue here. I need you to go talk to your doctor. And part of our campaign that makes it, we believe, so empowering for moms, like this is knowledge, this is information to help you have a good pregnancy outcome, is that, to speak up. Don't hesitate. If it's a Saturday at 2 a.m. and you've got an appointment, a regular appointment on Monday, but you really feel like something is off, or the data on the app or on your chart is showing that something is very different, do not hesitate. Just because it's Saturday at 2 a.m., that hospital is open. Your urgent care is open. Your birthing hospital is open. Don't hesitate. Go in, tell them what you're noticing, tell them what's wrong, and let them take it from there. The worst that can happen is nothing's wrong and they send you home and you're on your way and you're okay, and keep monitoring every day. But we really encourage you to speak up if you notice something has changed and to not wait.
Yeah. I especially like that you would have the data to back it up, because a lot of times moms would just come in and just say something feels off, which of course we also believe in mom's intuition, but then that kind of just leaves a wide variety of things that could be off, whereas if she says, it's been taking 10 minutes every day and today it took a full hour, then we know, that we first off know mom's been tracking, and we second of all know, okay, so this is a serious movement issue. It's not just like, because when you say you feel off, you could be starting a cold, you could have a low grade fever, being off has lots of different words to it. So I really like the data. I think that will really help your healthcare providers know that you're super involved and engaged in your care, and then where to start. And like you were saying, a lot of times it's just an NST and a BPP. We're not going to be like, oh, we need to deliver your baby right now.
I imagine you've had some success stories in your history of moms paying attention and coming in.
Yeah. I mean, our providers were not as great at advocating for kick counts as I would have loved. We had a few doctors that were great at it, but a lot of them were just kind of like, oh, they're not that important, which was always really frustrating to me. But I'm a big believer in mom's intuition, but I also love it when moms are engaged and really know, XYZ is going on. I mean, it's hard to say. I have had ones who've come in and been just something feels off, or they've said that the baby's not moving as much and we see that the monitors are down or the heart rate's down on the monitor. And, we quickly do a C-section. And I have had I've had friends who have noticed that something was wrong, went to the doctor, and then were rushed right in.
Oh, and in so many cases, moms become the hero of their own story. Like they save their baby, they get their baby here safely because they knew it was important, and they spoke up, and their provider took them seriously and got them here safely. And so it's so important to be your own advocate, to be your baby's advocate, and really do pay attention to what you're feeling and speak up and don't hesitate.
Yes. And what you were saying about 2 a.m., the hospital is 100% awake. And I will say that the doctors are returning calls at 2 a.m. I've seen them return calls at 2 a.m. Most providers, I'll put a little asterisk on that. Most providers, good providers, I think, have a lot of times they network through an experienced nurse who triages calls before they get to the doctor. Because obviously if the doctor's delivering a lot of babies, they aren't going to have a time to be able to get back to you. But most of them should have a number that you can call after hours that will route to an experienced provider who can either say, yeah, I think you should go in, or have you considered eating? Because a lot of times we would get people who would come in and say, the baby's not moving. And we'd be like, oh, okay. And of course we throw monitors on and we're really worried baby's on. And then we're like, when did you last eat? And they're like, oh, yesterday at noon. And it's today at noon. And they just haven't even eaten, which I would lay around too if I hadn't eaten that long. So
right.
Sometimes, your doctor or the provider you speak to on the phone can give you some ideas, like, have you had, a glass of ice water or stuff like that before you move in? But usually people who are on top of kick counts every day really already understood that by feeding their baby, the kick count was going to go faster and they could get on with their day.
Exactly. And, we've garnered almost 100 safe stories from moms across the country and Canada and the UK who used our campaign or used our app to pay attention, to track their baby's movements and get them, get their baby here safely. That's the power of the campaign and the importance of doing this in the third trimester, because especially during COVID, I mean, you could go weeks without seeing your provider in person, or, those appointments are fewer and far between, especially, last year, earlier this year, we're moving a little bit closer to normal or pre-pandemic, but it's a great way when you're not with your doctor every single day to be able to monitor your baby's health and see how they're doing. And so in Iowa, we're we started, where Count the Kicks started by 5 women who all lost daughters to stillbirth or infant death, our stillbirth rate has gone down 32% in a decade. And this is while the rest of the country has remained stagnant. 32% reduction in Iowa in a decade. And what that is hundreds of babies saved. The last thing a provider wants, and you know this, the last thing your provider wants is to deliver a stillborn baby. That is the worst day of their life, to have to deliver a baby that is no longer with us and doesn't get to take its first breath. And so we believe that women are not delicate flowers. Women deserve this education in their pregnancy. And so providers really do need to be having this conversation appropriately and asking at every appointment, not is your baby moving, but how's your baby moving? What's their normal and things like that. So if you are currently pregnant and you're going to your prenatal appointments and your doctor hasn't talked to you about this yet, I would encourage you to talk to them and let them know that you're paying attention and that you're tracking as a way to bond with your baby and keep in touch with their health during the 3rd trimester. Have that conversation with them and even show them the data on the app if you want to. Show them what is your baby's normal so that they can be in touch with what you're doing and they know that you've educated yourself on this and that this is important to you.
Yeah. And I love how low tech it is because I didn't have apps when I was pregnant. I didn't even have a smartphone until baby number 3, but I just used my fingers. Let's say you're at the water park with your family or whatever, and you don't have your phone close by and it's your time to do it or you've forgotten to do it, just sit there in your beach chair and count for your 10 fingers and then notice how long it took on the clock and then move on with your day. It doesn't need to be anything like super fancy, although I love the app and I love that you can track like how long it's taking. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. You're right. It does not have to be fancy. You just have to be mindful during those 10 movements and how long it took. So I appreciate you pointing that out.
Yeah. And then that statistic, 32%, 33%?
32% in a decade. Yeah.
And that's just you educating hardcore with providers and hospitals, I'm guessing, right? Like, what did you guys do?
You're exactly right. So we have a 96% saturation rate in Iowa of health providers ordering our materials, the brochures, the posters in the exam rooms, things like that. They're bright and empowering. It is a way to talk about stillbirth prevention without even having to talk about babies dying. It is a way to just encourage bonding with baby and getting to know what's normal. And so we sort of have a 2-pronged approach to our campaign. We not only work with birthing hospitals and maternal health providers and community-based organizations, we also reach out directly to moms via social media, stories told on TV and online and in newspapers, really, sharing the stories of moms who have been paying attention and were empowered to speak up when they noticed a change and got their baby here safely. It's just an example to other moms that, if you're currently pregnant, take a look at what this mom did. She was diligent about it in the 3rd trimester. She spoke up and unfortunately something was wrong, but because she spoke up and her doctor was able to intervene and get that baby here safely.
Yeah. That's so awesome. I do want to say really quick, because I do love my stillbirth moms, that this isn't going to prevent every stillbirth. There's nothing we can do that can prevent every single one. So even, if you have friends or whatever, it doesn't mean that they weren't listening or feeling for their baby. Sometimes they just happen, but what a valuable tool that we can try to do everything that we can to prevent them, right?
Well, that is a hugely important point. Not all stillbirths can be prevented. In fact, we believe about 1/3 can be prevented. So that means 2/3 are likely cannot be prevented. And so there should be no guilt when a baby is lost to stillbirth. It is, and let me emphasize this, it is never the mom's fault. It is never the mom's fault. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that because there is no guilt associated with this. It's simply a tool and a resource. And we know that not all stillbirths can be prevented and that there are going to be some things that simply cannot be prevented. The goal of the campaign is to prevent preventable stillbirths, ones that have the potential to be prevented, but not all of them can be.
Yeah. All right. So awesome. Now, I will say that there were days I didn't do my kick counts. So if there's a day that you forget to do your kick count, just pick yourself up and do it the next day. Because we're busy people. So I don't want you to be like, oh my gosh, I forgot it yesterday. As soon as you remember that you've forgotten to do it, take the time to do the kick count quickly. It's going to be a little different because it's a different time of day, yada, yada. But just sit there, feel for the baby to move, feel if it's pretty normal, and then set an alarm to remind you at 5 p.m. to tell your husband to clean the kitchen, and you're going to feel for the baby to move.
That's exactly right. And there's a reminder you can set on the app. You can set a daily reminder. So 7 p.m., 8 p.m., or first thing in the morning, whatever works for you and your schedule and your life, then set that reminder and the app will remind you.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, guys, 32%. And it's something that you can do. And actually, in the end, I was like, oh, that's the movement you were always making. Like when the baby came out, because you'd be like, what the heck is going on in there? What are you doing? When you're doing kick counts. And then you realize that that same being was inside your body. It's like hard to really imagine that you were growing a human being inside you. And that's what they were doing. It's the same person.
It's so fun. It's a way to get to know their personality before they're even here. I mean, we did a research study on our app users last year, and 77% of them said it reduced their anxiety. 84% of them said it helped them bond with their baby. So at the end of the day, if all that is a great way to bond with baby, then what a fun tool. I mean, what a great resource and a way to get to know your baby before they even arrive.
Yeah. Well, in anxiety, I think it really brings you back to the present moment, just kind of like breathing.
Yeah.
How you're just like, okay, baby's doing well. Like I'm doing my biggest job, which is growing another human being. Even if my house is messy or my work's not going the right, I'm doing the important things, and it just brings you back to like right now, everything's good.
Exactly. And give yourself permission to sit down or lay down and have that time to pay attention and get to know them.
Yeah. Okay. Kick counts, guys. Do them. Set the alarm. I love that you can just get the app and do them in there. If you have other pregnancy apps, I know a lot of them have kick counts available. So if you want to just use one of the other ones, just do them.
Just
use your fingers. Worst case scenario, you use a notebook in your fingers, like Hillary circa 2004.
That's right. Whatever it takes, get it done.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on, Emily. I hope this really makes a difference for people.
Thank you, Hillary, for the opportunity. We're so grateful. Thank you for the time.
Guys, I know you're busy. Like I get it, but this is something you can do. Usually it took me about 5 minutes, especially if I did it after I drank and ate, because my baby was alert and active and all those different kinds of things. If you try and do it when, baby hasn't been fed and you haven't had any water, then it is going to take a little bit longer, but it is really not going to take a long time. And it really can be an enjoyable time for you and the baby, especially if you make your husband clean up the dishes while you do it. Anyway, please do your kick counts. Please. It's not going to save every baby, just like we said in the podcast, but if it makes a difference for yours, it could be, amazing. So thanks for joining us on this bonus episode. Thanks so much for joining us on today's episode. We know you have lots of options for your ears, and we are glad that you chose us. We drop episodes weekly, and until next time, we hope you have a tangle-free day.